before we blast off, say hi in the comments. It may seem small, but it helps the algorithm beam this out to more sci-fi fans. And I seriously love seeing who's part of the crew.
The Nebulon diplomatic vessel cut through Earth's atmosphere with barely a whisper, a testament to technology refined across 12,000 years of interstellar travel. I, Ambassador Sorn of the Talaxian Confederation, watched through the observation portal as clouds parted before us, revealing the patchwork landscape of the human homeworld below. "First impression, Ambassador?" asked Captain Valeria, her 6 eyes blinking in sequential order, a sign of respectful curiosity among my species. "Unremarkable," I said. "Perhaps too quickly. Another blue-green world orbiting another unremarkable G-type star." But even as I spoke those words, something about the approach troubled me. Our navigational array had required 3 separate recalibrations since entering this solar system. The flight path corrections were minor, negligible by cosmic standards, but unusual nonetheless. It was as though the system's gravitational topology had been subtly altered from our mathematical models. "Arrival in 4 minutes. Ambassador," announced the navigation officer, "human flight control has cleared us for landing at their diplomatic reception center." I nodded, 6 tentacles curling and uncurling against my ceremonial garment, a nervous habit I'd never managed to overcome in my 332 cycles of existence. This mission represented the highest level of diplomatic contact the Confederation had attempted with humanity in the 87 years since their discovery. My mission brief replayed in my mind: observe, evaluate, and if possible, convince Earth to join the Galactic Alliance. After the Shutik crisis, the Alliance Council had voted unanimously to prioritize human integration. No one understood how humans had succeeded where every major galactic power had failed. The Shutik, a hive-minded species from the galactic rim, had swept through 17 star systems in what historians were already calling the most devastating conflict in 50,000 years. The Alliance's combined fleet, boasting weaponry that could rearrange planetary mantles and disrupt the fabric of space-time itself, had proven ineffective against the sheer numerical advantage of the Shutik swarms. Then the impossible happened. The Shutik reached the Sol system and stopped. Not only stopped, but reversed course entirely. 2 lunar cycles later, Shutik representatives requested formal peace negotiations, offering unprecedented reparations paid in human currency. "Ambassador," Captain Valeria interrupted my thoughts, "preliminary scans indicate higher than expected electromagnetic activity in the atmosphere." "Weather systems?" I inquired. "Negative. Communication signals. Billions of them." I dismissed this with a wave of my primary tentacle. The humans are known to be inefficient with their communication technologies. Their data compression algorithms are primitive. The landing was smoother than expected. As the vessel's ramp extended toward the tarmac, I donned my environmental suit, a precaution, though human atmospheric composition had been deemed compatible with Talaxian physiology. My welcoming committee consisted of just 3 humans. This struck me as oddly modest, perhaps even borderline insulting, but I reminded myself to account for cultural differences. "Ambassador Zahn," said the central figure, a male specimen with silver-gray hair and weathered skin. "I'm Thomas Marshall, Earth Diplomatic Corps. Welcome to our world." I performed the traditional Talaxian greeting, an elaborate sequence of tentacle positions meant to convey peaceful intentions. Marshall responded with a simple hand gesture, clasping and releasing, which my cultural database identified as a handshake, albeit performed at a distance. "The Confederation extends its gratitude for your hospitality," I replied through my translator. "I bring greetings from 12,000 worlds united in peaceful cooperation." Marshall nodded. "We look forward to learning more about your Confederation. Your accommodation has been prepared according to the specifications your advance team provided." As we moved toward a sleek ground vehicle, I caught my first unfiltered glimpse of the human city beyond the diplomatic compound. The skyline was modest by Confederation standards, buildings rarely exceeding 500 meters in height, yet something about the density felt wrong. My spatial awareness evolved over millennia to navigate the complex underwater caverns of my homeworld, detected patterns that defied typical urban development. "Your city," I began, searching for the right words. "It appears quite concentrated." Marshall laughed, a short, staccato sound. "Washington? This is one of our less densely populated urban centers. Wait until you see the megacities." During the ground transport journey, Marshall explained our itinerary, accommodation assignment, followed by an informal reception, cultural orientation, and then 3 days of preliminary talks before meeting with Earth's Security Council. I must inquire, I said, carefully selecting my phrasing, about the resolution of the Shutik incursion. The Confederation has great interest in understanding how diplomatic channels were established with a species that had, until reaching your system, shown no interest in communication. A subtle change crossed Marshall's facial features, what my cultural training identified as discomfort or perhaps caution. We simply found common ground, he said after a momentary pause. Sometimes looking at a problem from a different perspective reveals solutions that weren't apparent before. 17 systems fell before yours, I pressed. Billions of sentient beings perished. The combined military might of the Alliance proved ineffective, yet you engaged them in dialogue successfully. Marshall nodded slowly. We're good listeners? The vague response frustrated me, but diplomatic protocol prevented further interrogation at this stage. Instead, I turned my attention to the passing scenery. The vehicle had entered an underground transport tube, its walls occasionally transparent, revealing vast networks of additional tubes extending in all directions. The infrastructure appeared far more extensive than necessary for a city of the population size indicated in our briefing materials. Your transportation system seems overbuilt, I observed. We like to plan ahead, Marshall replied with another small laugh. As we emerged from the tube network, the vehicle slowed near a massive structure, my accommodation presumably, but what caught my attention wasn't the building itself, but the skyline beyond, now bathed in the reddish glow of Earth's setting sun. The horizon was alive with movement, countless flying vehicles streaming in organized patterns, their numbers far exceeding anything suggested by official population estimates. Ambassador? Marshall's voice pulled me from my observations. Is everything all right? Yes, I answered automatically, but my mind was racing. Something fundamental wasn't adding up. The communication signals, the transportation infrastructure, the aerial traffic density, all suggested a population orders of magnitude larger than officially documented. That night, unable to enter my species' sleep cycle, I accessed the data terminal in my quarters. I requested basic demographic information about Earth, publicly available statistics that shouldn't trigger any diplomatic sensitivities. The results confirmed official records. Earth's population numbered approximately 11 billion, a substantial figure for a single planet, but well within expected parameters for a technological civilization of their development stage. Yet as I cross-referenced this with observed infrastructure capacity, energy consumption patterns and communication bandwidth, the discrepancy became impossible to ignore. Either the humans were the most wasteful species in galactic history. A realization began to form in my consciousness, one so profound and disturbing that I initially rejected it as impossible. But as I reviewed the evidence again, the alternative explanation gained terrible clarity. What if we had fundamentally misunderstood humanity from the beginning? What if everything we thought we knew about them was based on a catastrophic error of perception? Just before Earth's sun breached the horizon, I drafted an urgent, encrypted message to the Confederation High Council. It began, "Preliminary assessment indicates critical intelligence failure regarding human civilization. Recommend immediate reassessment of diplomatic approach. The Galactic Alliance may be entirely unprepared for the reality of what we face." Dawn broke over Washington as I received an unexpected communication. My scheduled tour of Earth's diplomatic facilities had been revised. Thomas Marshall appeared at my quarters personally to deliver the news. "Ambassador Sorn," he said, his expression unreadable to my still developing understanding of human facial cues. "After reviewing your preliminary questions, the Security Council has authorized a more comprehensive orientation." "This is most appreciated," I replied, trying to mask my surprise. My encrypted message to the Confederation couldn't possibly have been intercepted. Our quantum entanglement communications were, by definition, undetectable. "We'll be traveling to what we call a nexus point," Marshall continued. "It should provide context for some of your observations." The transport waiting outside wasn't the modest ground vehicle from yesterday, but a sleek, atmospheric craft. Its design was elegant, yet utilitarian, oddly reminiscent of ancient Talaxian deep-sea vessels. "Impressive engineering," I commented as we boarded. "The hull composition appears to utilize metamaterials beyond what your technological profile suggests." Marshall smiled. "We've made some advances recently. The craft ascended vertically before accelerating forward with barely perceptible inertia, a level of gravitic compensation that even Confederation luxury vessels couldn't match. Through the viewport, I watched the landscape transform below us, urban centers giving way to agricultural zones, then forests, mountains, and finally ocean. Where exactly are we headed? I inquired after we had traveled for approximately 20 minutes, at what I estimated to be several times the speed of sound, yet felt nothing. A facility called Nexus Atlantic, Marshall replied, one of our transport hubs. As we approached the coastline, I expected to see some manner of conventional spaceport. What materialized instead defied categorization. Rising from the ocean's surface was a structure so vast it stretched beyond the horizon in multiple directions, a floating metropolis composed of interconnected platforms, each larger than the entirety of Washington, D.C. What is this? The question escaped before I could apply proper diplomatic filters. One of 14 oceanic transport nexuses, Marshall answered with casual nonchalance. This handles most eastern seaboard and European transit, plus about 30% of our lunar traffic. My perception struggled to process the scale. Countless aircraft of various sizes were landing and departing from designated zones across the structure. Massive elevator columns, kilometers in diameter, extended downward into the ocean depths and upward into the atmosphere, disappearing into the cloud layer. How many beings utilize this facility daily? I managed to ask. About 240 million transits per Earth day, Marshall replied. It's actually running at reduced capacity during the upgrading of the subaquatic sections. The number was preposterous. It exceeded the entire population of some Confederation worlds. Our craft docked at what Marshall described as a private reception area, a structure that could have housed the entirety of my homeworld's central government complex. Inside, a group of humans awaited, dressed in formal attire distinctly different from Marshall's diplomatic uniform. A woman stepped forward. Ambassador Sorn, I'm Director Helen Walker of the Planetary Infrastructure Commission. Welcome to Nexus Atlantic. Behind her stood 5 other humans, 3 male, 2 female, each introduced as directors of various Earth agencies. Orbital operations, subterranean development, population distribution, diplomatic intelligence, and something called expansion logistics. The meeting chamber they led me to featured a circular table with 7 seats, one apparently adapted for my physiology. The center of the table projected a 3-dimensional representation of Earth that slowly rotated, showing layers of infrastructure I hadn't previously known existed: vast underground city complexes, oceanic habitation zones, and an orbital network so dense it resembled a partial Dyson swarm. Ambassador, began Director Walker, we understand you've noticed certain inconsistencies in your understanding of our civilization. I measured my response carefully. There appear to be discrepancies between official documentation regarding your species and my direct observation. Walker nodded. Those discrepancies are intentional. We believe the time has come for selective transparency, beginning with the Confederation. Why the Confederation specifically? I asked. Your species has demonstrated both technological sophistication and ethical restraint, answered the Orbital Operations Director, a tall man named Jackson. More importantly, the Talaxians maintain the most comprehensive cross-species demographic registry in known space. This was true. Cataloging galactic lifeforms was a Talaxian cultural obsession predating our spacefaring era. I don't understand, I admitted. Walker tapped the table's surface, and the holographic Earth vanished, replaced by a numerical display that scrolled continuously upward, a population counter. I realized, but the figure it displayed was impossible, 4920 billion, increasing by several thousand each minute. This can't be accurate, I said, all diplomatic pretense momentarily forgotten. No planetary biosphere could sustain such numbers. A single planetary biosphere couldn't, agreed Walker. That's why we've expanded Earth's functional biosphere to include the entire Sol system. The hologram shifted again, now displaying the complete solar system. What I had assumed to be standard celestial bodies were revealed as thoroughly transformed environments. Venus shrouded not in toxic atmosphere but in orbital solar shields, its surface covered with sprawling habitation zones. Mars, completely terraformed. The gas giants ringed with habitation bands, the asteroid belt, largely dismantled and reconstructed into rotating habitats. Every solid body larger than 20 kilometers in diameter has been adapted for human habitation, explained the subterranean director, a reserved man named Williams. Many smaller ones serve specialized functions in our resource management system. My mind reeled. But your official population is the administrative surface population of Earth itself, Walker interrupted gently. A necessary deception. Why? I managed to ask. The diplomatic intelligence director, Davis, leaned forward. Ambassador, imagine the response if the Galactic Alliance suddenly discovered that a previously unknown civilization numbered nearly 500 billion sentient beings, over 20 times the combined population of all known spacefaring species. The implication struck me with physical force. They would assume hostile intent. Precisely, nodded Davis. First contact scenarios universally favor caution. When we initially detected Alliance signals 87 years ago, our population was already approaching 300 billion. We made a collective decision to present a modified profile, a single-world civilization of modest advancement. But you've established Alexandria colony, I countered. You've engaged in trade, cultural exchange, controlled exposure, explained Walker. Alexandria allowed us to introduce certain aspects of human civilization without revealing our true scale. The scope of the deception was staggering. An entire species, the most numerous in known space by orders of magnitude, had hidden in plain sight, deliberately understating their development to avoid triggering defensive responses from the galactic community. The Shutik, I said suddenly, pieces falling into place. They discovered the truth when they reached your system. The room grew silent. Finally, Walker nodded. The Shutik, Queen Mind, made a critical error, she said. Their invasion force bypassed our outer defense perimeter by avoiding major settlements. They thought they were being stealthy. In reality, they were permitted to approach Earth directly. When they arrive, continued Jackson, they encountered not a modestly populated world, but the administrative center of the largest civilization they had ever encountered. Their collective consciousness experienced what their terminology translates roughly as absolute mathematical terror. The sudden realization that they were outnumbered thousands to one. I struggled to process the implications. You negotiated from a position of overwhelming numerical superiority. We negotiated from a position of survival, corrected Walker, ours and theirs. The Shutik expand, because they must. Their reproductive cycle is biologically fixed. We offered an alternative, technological assistance to develop artificial intelligence systems that could extend their consciousness beyond biological constraints. You gave them artificial minds? I was aghast. My species had strict prohibitions against such technology. We gave them a future that doesn't require endless territory expansion, Walker stated simply. A solution the Alliance never considered. The meeting continued for hours as they methodically dismantled every assumption the Confederation and by extension the Alliance had made about humanity. Their technology wasn't primitive, but deliberately understated. Their apparent isolation wasn't cultural preference, but strategic caution. Their modest spacecraft were specialized diplomatic vessels built specifically to meet Alliance expectations. Ambassador, said Walker as the session concluded, you now face a complex decision. The information shared today is unknown to the Alliance leadership. How much you reveal in your report is at your discretion. Back in my private quarters aboard a station they called Diplomatic Observation Post Alpha, a structure larger than most Confederation cities, floating in Earth's upper atmosphere, I contemplated my options. My data terminal displayed 3 draft reports. The first contained only information consistent with previous Alliance understanding, a measured suggestion to continue diplomatic engagement with this interesting but ultimately minor civilization. The second revealed partial truths, hints at greater human development and population than previously documented, recommending closer Alliance attention without triggering alarm. The third disclosed everything, humanity's true nature as a civilization of nearly 500 billion beings, their complete transformation of their home system, and their technological capabilities that likely surpassed the Alliance in multiple domains. The first report would perpetuate a falsehood. The second would be technically truthful but misleading by omission. The third would forever alter the balance of galactic politics and potentially trigger a crisis of existential proportions within the Alliance. No diplomatic training had prepared me for this choice. The truth would forever change how the galaxy perceived itself. No longer would the Alliance stand as the pinnacle of civilizational achievement, yet concealing such information from my own government violated everything my position represented. Through my viewport, Earth hung against the blackness of space, appearing exactly as it had in countless Alliance surveys and studies. Its night side glittered with city lights that seemed modest and familiar. But now I understood that what looked like cities were merely administrative centers, each connected to vast networks extending above and below the planetary surface. An entire civilization had hidden itself within plain sight of the galaxy for nearly a century. The most numerous and perhaps most advanced species in known space had voluntarily restrained its expansion to prevent triggering conflict. As I prepared my final report, a message arrived from Director Walker. Ambassador Axorn, the Security Council has authorized me to inform you that humanity will respect whatever decision you make regarding your report contents. We ask only that you consider the potential consequences for galactic stability. The magnitude of their trust, placing the revelation of their civilization's true nature in my tentacles, was the final evidence I needed. Any species that would entrust such power to a potential adversary demonstrated either supreme confidence or profound wisdom, perhaps both. My terminal awaited input. 3 reports, 3 futures for galactic civilization. The decision before me would echo across thousands of worlds and trillions of lives. I raised my primary tentacles to the interface and began to enter my authorization code. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Confederation stretched before me, its 12-tiered architecture accommodating representatives from every member species. 37,000 delegates focused their attention on the central podium where I stood, my tentacles gripping the adaptive interface. I had made my decision. Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Confederation, I began, my voice carried through translation fields to every consciousness present. I present my official report on the human civilization of the Sol system. The expectant silence was charged with anticipation. My preliminary communications had indicated findings of significance, but I had deliberately withheld specifics until this formal presentation. My investigation has revealed information that will fundamentally alter our understanding of galactic civilization, I continued. Information so profound that I considered suppressing certain elements for the sake of stability. Murmurs rippled through the assembly, expressions of concern from species that communicated through sound, electromagnetic fluctuations from those that didn't. I chose truth instead, I declared, complete and unfiltered, regardless of consequence. The central display activated behind me, showing the standard Alliance cartographic representation of the Sol system, a modestly developed star system with a single primary inhabited world. This, I said, is the human civilization as we have understood it for 87 standard years. I paused, allowing the familiar image to register. This is the reality. The display shifted to the comprehensive scan data collected during my visit. Gasps and their equivalents erupted throughout the chamber as representatives absorbed the implications. The Sol system appeared transformed. Every planet, moon and substantial asteroid converted into habitable environments, connected by transit networks of staggering complexity. Humanity does not number 11 billion as previously documented, I stated. Current population figures exceed 490 billion individuals, increasing by approximately 1 million per day. The assembly erupted into chaos. Supreme Chancellor Zex of the Hegemony Council activated their priority channel. Ambassador Exorn, verify your data. The figure you cite would constitute more than 20 times the combined population of all known spacefaring civilizations. The data is verified, I confirmed. Humanity has achieved what our evolutionary models predicted was impossible. Post-scarcity civilization capable of sustaining exponential population growth through continuous habitat expansion. How could they conceal this? Demanded Representative Kuller of the Thandarin Collective. Our surveillance networks monitor all significant construction within 500 light-years of Alliance territory. They did not conceal, I clarified. They revealed selectively. Humanity has maintained dual infrastructure for nearly a century, a public layer visible to external observation, and a vastly larger private layer operating beyond our detection capabilities. The holographic display shifted again, showing historical data from human archives they had permitted me to share. Timeline markers highlighted decision points in their civilization's development. Approximately 300 Earth years ago, Humanity experienced a transformation they refer to as the population imperative, a fundamental shift in their approach to expansion. Rather than limiting growth to match resources as most evolving species do, they committed to expanding resource availability to match population growth. I activated the next visual sequence, humanity's systematic transformation of their solar system, accelerating with each generation. They developed technologies specifically designed to convert matter efficiently into habitable environments. Every celestial body in their system has been optimized for human habitation, their surfaces, subsurfaces, and in many cases their entire mass converted into living space, resource production, or computational infrastructure. "This is impossible," stated the Clarion ambassador, their crystalline form pulsating with agitation. "The energy requirements alone would exceed the output of their star. They have constructed a partial Dyson swarm," I explained, highlighting the vast network of energy collection satellites encircling their sun. "Their energy production exceeds the total combined output of all Confederation worlds." The implications were sinking in across the assembly. We weren't dealing with an emerging civilization seeking membership in the galactic community. We were confronting a super-civilization that had developed in isolation, one that surpassed our combined capabilities in numerous domains. "Ambassador Zorn," asked Chancellor Zykes, their tone measured but tense, "did you observe any indication of expansionist military doctrine or territorial ambitions beyond their home system?" "I did not," I answered truthfully. "Quite the opposite. Human leadership expressed profound concern that revealing their true nature would trigger preemptive military action from the Alliance." I activated the diplomatic record from my meeting with the Earth Security Council. "We have no desire for conflict," Director Walker's recorded image stated. "Our population expansion is focused inward and not outward. We have sufficient resources within our system to sustain our civilization for at least another 1,000 years. Yet you conceal yourselves," challenged an unseen questioner in the recording. "We concealed our scale, not our existence," Walker corrected. "History, your histories and ours, demonstrates that sudden power imbalances rarely lead to peaceful outcomes. We chose gradual integration." And he activated the recording and faced the assembly directly. The humans' decision to maintain a modest interstellar profile was not deception, but caution. When they detected our civilization's sanctity 7 years ago, they were already far more numerous than the entire Alliance. They correctly anticipated that such knowledge would trigger existential panic among our species. "What of the Shutik?" asked Representative Mile of the Defensive Coalition. "We must understand how humans resolved that conflict when our combined military forces failed." "The Shutik invaded human territory without understanding what they were confronting," I explained. "When they reached Earth's orbit, they encountered not a single defended world, but the administrative center of the largest civilization in known space. The humans could have annihilated them, but chose negotiation instead." I activated the final visualization, the diplomatic agreement between humans and the Shutik, translated into Alliance standard. Humanity offered the Shutik what no other species considered, a technological solution to their biological imperative for expansion. The humans developed artificial intelligence frameworks that allowed Shutik consciousness to extend beyond biological constraints. Their expansionist behavior wasn't aggression, but biological necessity, a limitation humans helped them transcend. The assembly fell silent as the implications settled over the gathered representatives. The humans had resolved through technology and diplomacy what the combined military might of the Alliance couldn't address through force. Chancellor Zix activated the central communication node. "Ambassador Exorn, based on your assessment, what action do you recommend the Confederation take regarding humanity?" I had anticipated this question, the culmination of my report and the true purpose of this assembly. "The traditional framework of the Galactic Alliance is fundamentally inadequate for integration with human civilization," I stated plainly. "Our entire diplomatic structure presupposes rough parity among member species. Humanity's population alone exceeds our combined numbers by an order of magnitude. Their industrial capacity, energy production, and computational resources surpass our collective capabilities. Under our current charter, humanity would either dominate the Alliance completely or be severely underrepresented." "What alternative exists?" asked. "The humans have proposed a solution," I said, activating the final section of my presentation. "They suggest the creation of a new diplomatic framework, neither membership nor traditional alliance, but a cooperative association framework they call Parallel Sovereign Development. The details appeared in the display, a complex proposal for technological exchange, mutual defense provisions, and collaborative research initiatives, all while maintaining the sovereign independence of both civilization spheres. This approach acknowledges the fundamental imbalance between our civilizations without requiring either to subordinate its interests to the other, I explained. It establishes protocols for cooperation in areas of mutual benefit while preserving autonomy in internal affairs. The assembly erupted into simultaneous discussion across thousands of communication channels as representatives debated the implications. Chancellor Zeeks eventually restored order. Ambassador Zorn, you have presented information that reshapes our understanding of our place in the cosmos, they acknowledged. The assembly will require time to process these revelations before determining our response. I raised my primary tentacles in the formal gesture of completion. There is one final matter I must address. The hall quieted again. Throughout my investigation, I encountered consistent evidence suggesting that what I have reported today may represent only a fraction of the truth about human civilization. Confusion rippled through the assembly. Explain, demanded Chancellor Z. Multiple inconsistencies in their system's gravitational dynamics suggest mass and energy utilization beyond what was disclosed to me, I said carefully. Furthermore, certain computational models indicate that sustaining their documented population would require resources exceeding what is available in their solar system alone. I activated my final visual, an astronomical analysis showing gravitational anomalies extending beyond the Sol system's heliopause. These readings are consistent with artificial structures or transportation networks extending into nearby interstellar space, I explained. When questioned about these anomalies, human representatives acknowledged only that their civilization has ongoing developmental projects they were not yet prepared to discuss. The implication landed like a physical force across the assembly. Humanity might already have expanded beyond their home system without our knowledge. There is a philosophical concept in human thought called the cosmic perspective, I continued. It suggests that advanced civilizations might develop along entirely different trajectories than we have imagined possible. My time among humans has convinced me that they represent precisely such a divergent evolutionary path, one that challenges our most fundamental assumptions about how intelligent life organizes itself. I deactivated the display, leaving only my words to fill the vast chamber. We have existed for millennia believing ourselves to be at the pinnacle of intelligent development in this galaxy. We have structured our sciences, philosophies, and governance models on that assumption. The truth about humanity compels us to reconsider everything we believed about our place in the cosmos. My voice softened as I delivered my final observation. Perhaps the most profound insight from my mission is this: humanity has achieved their extraordinary development not through conquest or exploitation, but through a relentless commitment to sustaining life, to creating habitable environments where none existed before. Their civilization is built not on dominance but on the continuous expansion of habitable space. I stepped back from the podium, my formal report complete. What you decide today will determine whether we approach this new reality with fear or wisdom. I have fulfilled my obligation to truth. The choice of response belongs to this assembly. As I returned to my delegation's position, the assembly erupted into the most intense debate in its 12,000-year history. Some called for immediate military containment of the Sol system. Others advocated for embracing human cooperation. Most simply struggled to process the paradigm shift I had delivered. Later, as I prepared to depart for my quarters, a secure communication arrived on my personal terminal. The origin signature indicated Earth, specifically Director Walker's office. The message contained only 7 words. Thank you for your honesty. There's more. Attached was a single coordinate designation. Not for a location within the Sol system, but for somewhere in intergalactic space, the void between our galaxy and the nearest neighboring spiral. The implications were clear and terrifying. Humanity's reach potentially extended beyond the boundaries of the Milky Way itself. I deleted the message immediately. This final secret too profound even for my report. Some truths belonged to the future, not the present. The galaxy would need time to adjust to humanity as I had revealed them. The greater reality, whatever it might be, would have to wait for another day, another ambassador, perhaps another age of galactic civilization entirely. As my ship departed the Confederation capital world, I gazed out at the stars, wondering which among them might already know humanity's deepest secrets. The cosmos suddenly seemed smaller, more connected, and infinitely more mysterious than when I had begun my journey. The truth about humanity had changed everything, and I suspected even that truth was merely the beginning.